right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another DC Worlds Collide video. This is Mr. Squirrel, and as always, I'm glad to have you here. So, let's talk a little bit about this team synergy. I'm going to make this kind of like a let's chat series. I think it's better if I just frame it this way. I want to start doing more of these kind of like let's chat, because I think this is just kind of off the cusp. Not off the cusp, I'm planning this one, but when I saw this leader skill, it really got me thinking about potential of future characters and what that can mean moving forward for this game, in the sense of, I think when they did this leader skill so early into the game's life cycle, it made me really excited, because so traditionally we see these games go very safe, in the sense of like, oh, if you're running shields, do this. If you're running, I don't know, like frostbite, you're going to do this. Well, there's not a lot of frostbite characters, but like block, which just means everybody go block. It's like, yay. It's very vanilla. It's like get XYZ character, team good. Yay. Woohoo. Right. And it's like, I'm going to use block as an example. Okay. Let's use block. Why for block? Because block is I actually think the team pretty much, you run a few very specific characters and then it just works and there's nothing else to it. So like for block, for instance, get Robin as one tank, get Blue Beetle as the next tank, make sure Ocean Master's in the back doing lots of damage, and he's one of your damage dealers. And then, you can either use like Sinestro, or another one that's really good is Deathstroke. So Sinestro or Deathstroke, put them in the back too as your main DPS. Bloodsport doesn't do as much damage. I think he's very good on that team. I just don't think he does as much damage. And then with Blue Beetle, you have so much tanking going on in the back row. You don't really need that. You want someone that does a lot of damage. I think Sinestro fills that really well because of how much weakens and bleed is going on in that team. It does work pretty well in terms of debuffs. Deathstroke's just doing a lot of bleed stuff. He's just an overall really good single target character. While your team is just blocking everybody, he's just going to sit down and kill people. Great. And then Zatanna. So you got crit rate and you got frantic and lifesteal. So, you've got Ocean Master's block, his leader skill is giving the team tons of attack. They're getting life back when they block. So your tanks are, relatively sustaining there. And then you've got, Zatanna doing the life steal so they can sustain even further. And it works. You could also put Kid Flash in there. It works just fine. Moral of the story is it works. Team just, you get the best block characters, put them on the team, and it works. Same with shields. You got Lex Luthor. You get, put more shields. Great. Crit. You run, you can run, what's his name? Green Arrow's team and Wonder Woman. And you get where I'm going, right? It's like, here's characters, put them on the team, win, right? And when I saw Mr. Terrific, on the other hand, this leader skill is like, most teams have a tank. Now they don't. And it was like, whoa, I got to think about this now, because now I don't have a tank. So I got to find characters like, for instance, Dr. Phosphorus. Was considered garbage. Now he's goated on this specific team. But like, on this team, he's run a burn team with him and Soups in the front. Oh. But then before that, he was just like, meh. It's like, he's cool, but why are you running a DPS in the front besides Superman? Right? Now, another point that this is the character I really wanted to talk about, Mara. Because she was like, again, some people are like, she's always been super good, but the general consensus of the community was she was not. Why? Because why do I have a DPSer who is so tanky, right? Because her entire passive is about taking 100% reduced crit damage and 35% reduced damage overall. Literally, she's just going to be sitting in the front, not taking a whole heck of a lot of damage, right? But then it's just like, if you're putting a DPS on the team, you want them to do damage or other things along with damage, right? Like, debuffing. You have tanks to tank, right? So why would I want a DPSer tanking? Wow. Now, when you can't use a tank, you see what I mean? So it opens up this niche that had never been open, like that it opens up these characters kits in a way that it allows them to thrive in very specific situations that are also very general situations. Like, it's not like, oh, if you're going up against this one enemy. So I always hate requirements where it's just like, if Superman is on the enemy team, then this person gets 500 defense. Great. And if he's not, then this character just sucks. See what I mean? But this is very different. This is, as long as you are meeting the condition, then this team becomes goated. Now, the reason I want to bring up this condition, what I just brought up, is because it's been getting me thinking a lot about Lex Luthor. I think for the early to mid game, he has one of the better leader skills just because of that 12% damage reduction. He's doing all the shields that he needs. But then if we go down to his rank 10, this is where it requires the enemy. It is out of your control what his leader skill is doing for its last ability, which for me is very annoying. I don't like that. And that is if the enemy does sacrifice. Not a lot of characters sacrifice. So it's like, unless you're going up against essentially, unless Constantine is on the enemy team, this leader skill it's not doing a lot, right? I mean, there's Fate. There are sacrifice characters, but it itself is not doing anything unless they're on the other team. And so his entire second half of his leader skill is just kind of like, okay, it requires the enemy. But so that for me was like, is this a good long-term team? And the answer to that question is, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's great through the 20s. It's been literally getting me through, it got me to 24. So I'm not going to argue with it. The other thing too is he requires another tank. That's what that leader. So besides him, he needs a tank and a support for that leader skill to trigger. So you need 2 tanks, yada, yada, yada. Now, why? I'm going to come back to his leader skill. So there's 2 parts to this leader skill that we have to consider moving forward. And then I'm going to go into the next part of this video, is that they are going to consider this leader skill now when they're releasing a superpower DPS. Because you have to factor in, can it tank? And if it can, it's going on this team, right? Like, it'll be a frontline character on this team, right? So that's something to take note of. What if they release someone that's just like superpower block character? Ooh, that would be very annoying, right? Because now you've got a character who is blocking and doing a ton of damage. Or, blocking and doing superpower damage, right? That doing a ton of damage and life stealing it back. It could be very annoying, right? But at the same time, it opens up so much for this game. And so what I want to talk a little bit more about this game, or the potential of this, is what if we start thinking about comps that are minus other synergies, like other characters? What if we talk about, for instance, let's talk about one comp I was thinking a lot about, and it actually brings up Superman, the older Superman, the one that was originally in this game, because he's always been considered a really good character, but not the best tank, because he's more of a damager than a tank. Actually, I think it's funny because I think he is more of the DPS, while the new Superman is more of the tank, but their roles are flipped, right? It's a little like, okay, but he does a lot of damage, but he's a tank, right? What if we created a synergy? What if they release another tank character? And that tank character is, let's think about, now Firestorm we know is going to be a DPS. It says he's a tactile DPS. So we already know that. They could change it, but I don't know. Let's think of Dark. I'm going to do Doomsday. Let's do Doomsday. What if Doomsday comes out and Doomsday says, as long as you're not running an attacker, all tanks deal 50% more damage. I don't know. They don't need more defense, but they do 50% more damage and have 30% more HP or something. I mean, that could actually work. Oh, and then recover 5% HP at the start of their turn, right? So they got the sustain, they got these things. There we go. We've got Doomsday, right? So now watch. This starts getting interesting. So if we said there's this leader skill that it's like, as long as you're not running another DPS, so you're running only supports and tanks, then for instance, you get 50%, bonus damage, 30% HP. So you see what I'm doing here, and then 5% of your max HP every turn, right? Okay, let's go with that. Let's say that. That's the leader skill, right? Cool. Now, you know who that opens up completely? You put Martian Manhunter in the back. Just put him in the back of the game. Like, so you've got, let's just say in the front, you've got, you know who actually work really well besides that? So you actually not even Superman. The actual goated character, if that was like a quote unquote leader skill, would be Bane. Bane would be broken with that leader skill, because he does a lot of damage. He stuns, and he wants to heal. So it's like you have Bane and Doomsday in the front. You've got Martian Manhunter in the back with Kid Flash, right? And let's think of another character. You know who would be really annoying on that team? Like, just would drive me up a wall. Raven. Oh, because I just pulled her a little while ago. Because now you've got this crazy healing team, and you've got Kid Flash doing Kid Flash things, and and now you've got Raven, who actually does a decent amount of damage, but also she's can revive. So one of your tanks dies, and boom, tank's back. And it's like, oh my God, I got to deal with this again, right? And you got Martian Manhunter just giving everyone heals, because when he gets healed, yada, 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 you get the idea. But what I'm trying to get at, it then opens up these characters that didn't work earlier, right? Or Cyborg. Cyborg's a really good character, because the thing with Cyborg, he's very much kind of like a damager, as long as the enemy team has debuffs on them. But he's not really doing a lot of support stuff. I mean, his ult is giving invulnerability to someone else. But he does, his passive is all about just doing a ton of damage. And he gives damage reduction to the team. But he's not really healing. My point is you've got this character that doesn't really fill any role right now, right? And it makes it so that some characters just in the current environment don't have any space to be, right? But if you make them really great on a very specific comp, then it actually opens up this character. Like, that's when I remember when I released that tier list video. I think that's actually what kind of blew up this channel a little bit. Which, by the way, thank you for everybody that watches this stuff and listens to me rant and talk and whatever. I appreciate you. But we come back to this point, and it's like, you need to be careful of tier lists, right? Because in this game, like, for instance, let's talk about Guy. Guy, just on his own, I'd say is like A, maybe B. He doesn't do the most damage. And he's just getting a ton of like shields. So you kind of want to put him in the front, but he's not tanky enough to be in the front. The second you put him with Mr. Terrific, he's now tanky enough to be in the front, and he's doing a ton of damage. So he's getting more shields, and he's just this very annoying character to deal with in the front line, because he's life stealing, he's shielding, he's got a ton of defense, especially for the first 3 turns. And you're just like, oh my God. And he's going after your highest attack character. Then you like, I really like to run Guy's ult first, because it takes down it'll find the highest attack. It goes after the highest attack character on the enemy team. And then I like running Constantine or another AoE right after him. So like, if I were to be doing this, I like would run Guy first, then I would go like Hal Jordan second, and then like Jess. So the team is getting all these shields, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get on all this, whatever. But the moral is that it opens up this wonderful synergy that was not originally present, right? Like right now, why is Wonder Woman so good? She's just kind of good everywhere, right? But the thing is, she's very good all around, like everywhere, right? But she does physical damage, which makes it like, if I'm really glad they made Mr. Terrific the way they did, because if he was any different, Wonder Woman would and let's just say he just gave all DPS lifesteal, Wonder Woman would legitimately be the most broken character in the game. You have an AoE crit character that has damage reduction, who can silence, and with her artifact can stun the enemy team, and doing 50% more damage. Like, what? That would be legitimately one of the most annoying things to deal with in the game. I'm very glad they balanced that. because she would have broken the game. And it would have really, like, it would have invalidated many teams, because it's just like, all right, well, my team's stunned now. They're getting silenced. They're getting life stealed. I can't do anything. And she has 60% bonus defense on top of life steal, on top of 20% damage reduction, while being built as a DPS character. See what I mean? Oh, and then next to her is Guy Gardner, who is like tons of shield. I can't do anything about those shields because he's just had so much defense. Once I get through the shields, then he's doing his attacks again and builds those shields right back. You get me? You see what I'm saying? So, but it's very contextualized, right? Like, it is able, they balanced it well enough that I think it's only for the first 3 turns. So if you can survive the onslaught of Mr. Terrific's team, yes, then you might be able to push, like, get down his DPSers in the front line. But if you don't, then you're still dealing with, like, so, but it also gives them the ability to survive the first couple ults, and they're like still sitting there and they can lifesteal back up. It gives them that like ability to not just get burst down super duper fast, and allowing your team to build up too, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get fully into it, but it opens this amazing synergy up. But then we start thinking about, oh, interesting. You know, we've got tanks, right? I could also run Lex Luthor, and I could run Lex Luthor on this tank team. We'll come back to this tank team example that I'm using. And let's just say I'm using, I don't know, let's figure a support character that does an immense Ocean Master. I don't know. I'm going to throw some different ideas around here, right? Another idea was, we'll go with this, is like, then, you know, he's, you know, on this tank team that's getting HP and damage, and I mean, you actually probably wouldn't want to use Lex Luthor on that team because Lex does 0 damage. But my point is it like allows you to run these, do unique things that we were not able to do before, right? And I know people are like, well, no duh. And I'm like, yeah, but the way they've done it always in the past is there is a mechanic and then they just synergize around the mechanic. Like, there's another video coming out. It might have already come out, or it came out already. I don't remember where that video is going to go in relationship to this video. But Frostbite, let's use Frostbite as an example. It's coming out. We know it's coming out. So when people do Frostbite, X, Y, and Z happens. Great, right? And it's very vanilla. Here's this ability when it happens. So what do? You build your team. You just get all the Frostbite characters, put them on a team, call it a day, right? It works. I think that's fine as the leader skills, our team synergies. I think it's a good way to do it. But you have to move beyond that. And then it's just like, oh, let's introduce a new mechanic like Shock. I actually wanted to make a video on this, and I will later. But let's just say you have Shock, and now Static Shock comes into the game, and you've got, you know, Black Lightning and, God, I don't know, like a million Reverse Flash who does lightning-based attacks or something. I don't know. And they release a new Flash too, Godspeed. And, you know, they do all these different things and it's all lightning and yada, yada, yada. And now just put them all together on a team. It's a super OP thing, blah, 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 blah. Right? But it's just kind of like, okay, these 2 characters are my tanks. These are like, it very much just feels like, here's a mechanic. We have a leader skill that revolves around that mechanic. And then it's just like, good, have fun with it and deal with it. And it just creates very much like a lot of isolation. And like, you're not thinking about, oh, you know, how does this like, if this character has the mechanic, I put them on that team. That's literally how, like, oh, we're looking for stun. So whenever it like, this is a stun mechanic. Whenever anyone gets stunned, that would also be very annoying, by the way. But I hope they never do that. Don't make anything based around stun. Please, for the love of all that is good, don't make it based around stun. It'd be so annoying. But like, every time they stun, blank happens. And it's just like, great. So I just throw all my stunners on the same team and I call it a day. And again, I'm not going to knock, like, this is a good example of a leader skill that I think I like this leader skill of what it does. But it is still kind of in that vein of, if they have a debuff, throw them on the team. It's also very good generalistically, especially when you're first starting out, which is, you know, Sinestra's team comp, which is just like, here's, you know, if they do debuffs, you want 5 different debuffs. So, you know, that I think is also fun though, because then you're like, well, I can use Grodd for these debuffs. I can use, you know, Ocean Master for these. I can use, you know what I mean? Like, it offers, because you need a tank and a support. Or I can use Zatanna, who's giving armor break, and then I can use there's like Grodd, I'm coming back to Grodd. I can use what's his name? Bizarro with Superman, because then I've got burn and dampen or frostbite, weaken. I've got Sinestro doing slow and fear. My point is yeah, this is fun because it gives you options on how to run your teams, right? This isn't the case for all leader skills, on which we've already been over, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But what this makes me think a lot about is that we can really start, instead of saying if this character's on your team, we can say if this character's not on your team. Right? So that way, what it can do is it can isolate the super meta OP characters. Like, again, I'm going to come back to this Wonder Woman example. This literally, the way that's worded in his leader skill, it makes, not even worded, the way it works is that it's all about superpower damage. That makes her just not that great. She will get the defense, but she's not life stealing and she's not doing more damage. So a lot of this kit is not working here. Does that mean she can't work on the team? No, she can work, but she's not going to be one of the best, which I'm thankful for. It would really peeve me off if it was just all DPS, because then you would just run, honestly, that comp would be very simple. You would run Red Hood and Wonder Woman in the front, and then Deathstroke in the back. And I'm like, you see what I mean? You just run the most OP characters in the world and it works. And because of how they did this, they excluded the meta characters. The two most meta DPS characters right now are Deathstroke and Wonder Woman. And Sinestro. But Sinestro is also a little funny the way he works with, like, it's a lot of the tanks are the ones that do the debuffs now. And granted, there are other ways to make the debuffs work, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get into it. Can he work well with Mr. Terrific? Oh, yeah, totally. I think he's great with him. But you have to, it's a little bit more like, you got to kind of play around with it a little bit, is my point. But like, imagine that was the team. It was just any DPS, here's more power, more defense. And it's just like, all right, let me run the 4 best DPS and Mr. Terrific, and then just breeze through the game. That's what would have happened with how OP this ability is. Or they would have nerfed the leader skill, and then it just wouldn't have done anything. This is an incredibly well-balanced leader skill. I love this leader skill, or team synergy, whatever. I love it. It is beautifully balanced. And I see it doing crazy things, especially like as you gear your characters up, as you do more things. That 15% life steal, you cannot sit there and like take it for granted. It's doing crazy stuff. And it gives the team a huge amount of synergy. And what then is the team missing? Cleanse. Oh, guess what Mr. Terrific does? Cleanses the whole team. Granted, I wish other parts of his kit worked a little bit better with that, but I think overall it does pretty well. He is not meant to be a DPSer, even though his kit does a lot of damage. He is simply meant to dampen the team, remove those debuffs, and give them one of the most OP synergies in the game, right? Now, I do see them, though. We're going to see some power creep here. I mean, it's inevitable. These games are going to power creep. It is just what they do, right? But I think they need to be very careful, because if they were ever release just Mr. Terrific's leader skill, and I hope they never do, but for like do the same thing and it's just all DPS, because what I never want for them to do is say, here's the 4 most OP characters in the game, just put them on the team and it works. Can that happen? Yes. But can you do it now? Yes, you can put Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor, and, you know, Deathstroke, and all these other characters on the team, and it does work, right? And like, but it's not going to perform the most amazingly, because it is limited in the sense that these characters don't fully synergize well together, because there's ult competition. You're trying to figure out who do you want to ult first. You're trying to figure out all these different things, right? And that you really need to kind of play into when you're building your comps, is like, who's ulting first? Why are they ulting first over this character? Whose ult is going to do more in the beginning? Yada, yada, yada. And it really, the way they did this, it's like, okay, that gives me a lot of hope moving forward in terms of like some really cool ways we can synergize. I'm actually really curious about the tank slash support one, like no DPS, because I will say this, I think it would be really cool, but at the same time, it's going to be so annoying in PvP. But also, though, how you're not going to push story that well because you're not doing like insane levels of burst damage. I mean, unless they release some more characters, right? But I actually think that could actually really work on a block team if they made it work. Like you just need a really, 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 really high, like a heavy DPS tank that could work in the back with a block based team. That could be interesting because the block, it could work, but we're not getting into it. But my point here is there is a lot of things now like that we have to think about that like, okay, so Lex Luthor now is kind of getting, because if you watched my previous videos, I'm moving out away from Lex as my main team because after watching what Mr. Terrific was doing, it made me realize that I have a comp, I can make this comp work. And because my two most built characters, which are, well, my first two, my top three, both of them work insanely well with Mr. Terrific, which is Jess and Hal. And then it's just like, okay, I have Superman, I have Guy who's decently built. I just need to start working on his badge. But I need this artifact, but I'm saving up artifact points so I can get that badge. So I can actually rank up that badge as fast as soon as it drops. I am saving so much artifact points for that badge. So he becomes an absolute monster. But like, this just makes me really excited. I think there's a lot of potential here for the way this can operate. And I think in the end, that is very exciting. And I know wasn't the most like crazy, but this is just kind of like a let's talk, right? But what that also makes me happy about is like, let's just say a character as time goes on, like for instance, I'm going to make this the last point I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to end this video. But power creep is inevitable in these games. It is. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. They're going to start releasing characters that are better than previous characters. It is. Give it a couple months and we're going to start seeing characters that are just better versions, right? Or they do something different and work in a different synergy a little bit better. Maybe they're doing a little bit more damage, yada, yada, yada. But what you can do with things like this and making leader skills hyper specific is you can make it so that these characters, once as they're starting to like age out, I'll give you an example. Let's go with Wonder Woman. I'm gonna use her again. So she's like this physical DPS character, right? And does AoE damage, right? Okay. And we've got Hal Jordan here doing physical, Hal Jordan, Green Arrow, doing physical AoE damage. Now, what if they release something down the line and they wanted to avoid Deathstroke? Right? Who's still, let's just say, single target, very meta, doing some crazy meta things, right? So it's like, okay, how do we create a comp that ignores Deathstroke while still allowing for Wonder Woman and maybe specifically Green Arrow to work? And let's just say when physical AoE character crits, does plus 50% bonus physical damage and gives 15% lifesteal when crit, right? Then you've got Wonder Woman and Green Arrow, who are both very crit based, benefiting heavily from this. But then you've got other physical characters, maybe like Batman, for instance, right? We don't want Batman to be super duper. We don't want him just sitting there one-shotting everyone. You know, he's just going to come in, one-shot the tank and then leave and then do it again and again and again and again and again, right? We want to make sure that we're not doing that. Well, it has to be an AoE physical DPS who crits, and then it'll do bonus 50% damage. And then, I mean, that would be really crazy. But you see what I'm saying is like, you make these hyper specific niches for these team synergies, and it will allow that. And like, let's just say it's in like 6-7 months when Wonder Woman maybe is starting to fall off a little bit, and you know, her tankiness, like she needs a little bit more of the tankiness, and like this leader skill is like only for physical AoE DPS. And it's just like, oh, and it gives them 30% defense. Ooh, now she can go in the front, do some good damage, and it's only for like the first time or something. I don't know. Well, they would do something with it. I don't know. But then it's just like, oh, this gets interesting now, because now we're making hyper specific scenarios where these characters can, maybe as they start falling off a little bit, we give them a new team synergy that allows them to go maybe back into S under this specific condition. That's not dependent on an enemy. That's dependent on them being on this team. If they're on this team, super great. The character's, been out for 7 months at this point. Everyone has a copy or two of this character, and it's like, and they're in the shop for free. Oh, one that I do see actually that I'm actually really excited about, and I think they're going to do something with it. I'll show you. So I think something could very easily happen with the Flash. If certain characters over a specific speed threshold, which only maybe certain characters could reach, then do X, Y, and Z. I don't know. But imagine then you've got like a Flash team, and it's like, but the thing is, it has to be specifically a Flash team, because that speed comp can only be reached with a character who's a speedster, right? Now, could that be frustrating for people? Yes. And they have to be very careful with doing this too often. And I think they need to be very careful about doing this with characters that I would say it's okay with the Flash, because the Flash is one of these characters that you can pick up in the shops. I don't plan on building him right now, and I think he's okay. I don't think he's anything super crazy. But let's just say they did something with these speedsters and it makes Flash really good, right? Would anyone really complain about that? Because you have people that have the Flash. He's in the general summons. I think that's a great way to kind of do this. And it makes these characters work in a very specific way that maybe characters that aren't super duper OP. Again, I want to be very careful when they're doing this, because what they should not do is say, here's the 4 most OP characters, let's put them on this team and make them even more OP. And it's like the gap between the rest of the game and them just keeps going like this. What you need to do is, rather than constantly make more OP characters, instead find ways to bring characters up and gradually just keep doing this. What will frustrate people, and it's something that these games do, and it brings in players, because it's like, this character is so OP, and if you're not running them, you like lose the game, right? But then what that does is it invalidates the game. It invalidates what people's investment, right? And instead, what you do is you say, so right now we've got a general team that's like right here, which is good. It's a good starting point for, right? We'll just say it's right here, top of my forehead. Now, what I noticed about, what's his name? Mr. Terrific's team is actually my team, which is, I think, decent. It brought them up to the same level with minimal investment. That means the ceiling of this team actually is higher, right? Right? And so it actually brings them up to, I think, if you invest in these specific characters, it can actually make them the same level as the meta teams. Very well. Like, it does if you have these specific characters working together, it can make them as OP as the most meta teams in the game right now, when you put them, the superpower characters, together with Mr. Terrific, and they're all built. Then their ceiling is the same as like the most meta team, right? And then let's just say you make a new team and it's just slightly better than the rest of these, and you just continue. But then what you need to do in this situation is, okay, now let's release, I'm going to use Frostbite as an example. Frostbite comes out and it makes Supergirl crazy OP. Superman's amazing tank, Bizarro Superman sitting on the front. It's super tanky. They're freezing, yada, yada, yada. You got Supergirl in the back, Killer Frost, and I don't know, one other character, Sinestro, because why not? Why not? Because he works everywhere. And it's super good, but it's like just a little bit better. I'd actually Sinestro would work great on that team, because you get all these debuffs. And you got Weaken. Wow, that would work really well. Sinestro, yeah, there you go. Only thing is, Sinestro wouldn't be getting all that healing, because he's not doing Frostbite. But it's a good example. You'll see the Frostbite video. But it's only a little bit better. And then maybe they release another team. They update the Burn team a little bit. And Firestorm comes out, and he's this crazy OP DPS, takes the place of, let's just say he's supporting in a way as a DPSer, does this amazing support, gives the team some kind of sustain, and bumps Burn up to this new level where Frost is, but it's only like every team's at S. Frost, Bite, and Burn now are S plus, not Z, not like crazy. It's like 1, and then everyone else is at like 1.5. Is it? It's, but if your characters are super built, they're properly built, that those are almost negligible in notice. Like it's only at the very tippy top when everyone has a max leveled characters, 15 stars, everything, which very few people are going to have even now or in a couple of months. At that point, and then like alts go off in a specific way. It triggers yada yada. You get what I'm trying to say, right? But it's marginally better. And then now though, and as we continue, then we release Shock. It does. It's just, again, it pushes the bar just a little bit again. I'm saying this very specifically, and that works. Now let's just say 8-9 months have passed. Great. Oh, now remember the Mr. Terrific. Now these other characters, what's kind of fun about this is they might be doing superpower damage too, and maybe it's like, oh, this character's super tanky. Maybe I can throw like Firestorm. Let's do Firestorm as an example. Super tanky character. Huh. Can I throw him with Mr. Terrific? And then just do this like crazy burn comp? Because I can just put, oh no. That actually might be what happens. I actually think Phosphorus is going to get replaced because he's kind of hard to get. And I think because if you look at Firestorm, he does some sort of shields and he's a DPS superpower. Which means you've got your tank with Superman in the front. Oh, no, that will work. I just thought of that one. Is that what they're going to do? Is Firestorm going to be this crazy OP, not OP, but this crazy burn-based character? I mean, he is really good at burn. That does some really cool shields on a burn team. And then it's like Superman, Firestorm in the front, Superboy, and Starfire in the back. Oh man, I gotta start saving. I bet that's what's gonna happen. Now I'm looking at Firestorm's kit and the way we play against him. I think he gets shields when he hits someone with burn or something like that, like maybe burn procs, and then the fire. Then he gets a shield. Oh no! Is that how they're gonna do this? That's how they're gonna do this. I bet Firestorm's coming out soon, especially given what the whatchamacallit. I bet he'll be a legendary. And he's gonna come out probably one of the next characters that comes out because he's so prevalent in the game. Okay. That's okay. Well, that went somewhere else. I didn't even think about that. The Firestorm is actually probably going to be the OP character, legend. Like he might be maybe potentially the next legendary that comes out. But you see now, look at this. Because of Mr. Terrific, I was thinking about why would I want another DPS burn character? The team's full of them. In all of my other videos, I've been saying they have enough DPS. They need a support. They need sustain. How do you sustain them? The leader skill. And then you just, because you've got Superman, DCU, you've got Superboy, you've got Starfire, and so the way you would ult in that team, it's very simple. You would go, Firestorm, DCU, Superman, and then you would do like Starfire, Superboy. You could play around with the ults, but it was just so that way you're keeping your two frontliners sustained in the beginning of the match, and then they're just doing their own thing, and it works. That actually would. There you go. But this is what's exciting about this leader skill, and why I wanted to talk about this leader skill is that it opens up these potential conversations that we weren't having before this about how you can build your characters in ways that progress the game forward and without power creeping characters. The only thing that's getting power creeped here is the old Superman. Well, sucks to suck, I guess. Which he was okay, but then they're going to probably find. But you see, now we can open up a different comp, and it's just like without DPS, and we want a tank that does damage. Then you've got Superman, who's wonderful at doing that. Yeah, you get my points here. So it's really interesting to think about how this is going to operate moving forward. I am very excited about what they'll do with these leader skills or team synergies. And I really think that the game has a wonderful opportunity right now and I think they just need to be very careful. This was a well curated, well developed team synergy that it opens up horizontal, like different ways to play the game and different ways. So let's just say you never pulled the tank and you're like, what am I going to do? Well, you've got all the superpower DPS and you're like, oh, I could, like, right now, it's kind of my issue. I got all the superpower DPS and I'm like, what do I do here? Right? I don't know what to do. Well, I'm just going to run a whatchamacallit. I can run a superpower team, superpower shield team. I think that's super duper cool. Okay. That's it for me, folks. I hope this video was somewhat levels and insightful. If you listen this long, thanks for doing that. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening. Remember, failing is just your first attempt in learning.